What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Dish by Keev. I'm joined today by Kevin Limon of Highland Park Brewing. Welcome to the show, Kev.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So what you got here for us, man?
I got a few beers to showcase, but we're gonna be trying Timbo Pils right now. It's probably one of our best-selling beers. It's a West Coast Pilsner. Drinks pretty light, like kind of like an IPA, but it has that crisp, very light mouthfeel, like a Pilsner.
Yeah, I love a good IPA, man. I'm a big West Coast IPA guy.
Oh, this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this is up your alley then.
Wow, sweet, man. Let's
let's have
dive
some.
into that, man. I know we got that
Salud.
mic right here in our face, but
It's all good.
yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. That's got a nice little hop to it right there.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff, man. Right on.
Enjoy.
Appreciate the brews. We got a series of different beers here. Really appreciate you bringing those, man. Um, so let's jump into it, man. Let's dive into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Kevin Limon. I'm a brewer at Highland Park Brewery in Los Angeles, California. I've been home brewing since 2017. And yeah, probably at the tail end of the pandemic, I started brewing professionally.
Nice. Right on, man. That's
hmm
awesome. That's awesome. So you're at Highland Park Brewing now. You're a brewer there, so you've been brewing for a couple years now. What has that process been like? What has that journey been like for you?
Well, when I first started home brewing, it was kind of sparked by a gift that was given to my brother. He was given this Mr. Beer homebrew kit, which is like a 2 gallon brewing kit with just at the time it was like malt extract, very basic stuff that you just mix in together and you're like, hey, that's a brew. That's a brew day for you. And it sat in his closet for about 2 to 3 years, and I was pretty frustrated because I was really excited when he first got it, and it just sat there. And by the time I was able to get my hands on it and do something about it, um, all the ingredients in that kit were already expired. So I was like, "Damn!" And I mean, I've always been interested in brewing, and I would go to my grandparents' house in Rancho Cucamonga, so we would always pass by that old Miller brewery and I would say like, "Man, that looks so cool. Like, I wonder what goes on in there."
Sure. That's off the 210, right?
Yeah, off the
Yeah.
210. And I said, "Well, you know what? Like, let me get a crack at it." And at that time, is when craft brewing or like the craft brewery scene was popping off, and indie brewing company had recently opened up. I was there on day 7, and I had a saison that they had on draft. A saison is a Belgian style beer, very yeast forward style, and it was something that I've never had before, and that kind of put me on to try other styles of beer instead of your regular Modelo,
Sure.
Corona,
Yeah.
all the stuff that we would frequent at a supermarket. And I took a deep dive into it. And from that point on, I knew that's kind of something that I wanted to pursue as a hobby. A week later, I went to Eagle Rock Homebrew Shop, which it doesn't exist anymore. Uh, Sad to say, but I took a class there. It was a quick homebrew class, and I said, you know what? Just set me up with all the ingredients, and I kind of took it from there.
So, like, what was it about brewing that really captured your heart?
I really like the raw ingredient aspect of brewing. Um, when I went to that homebrew shop, there is a wider range of types of grain, types of malt, types of hops, and just there's so much of it that I couldn't really grasp what makes what. So I started doing my research and realizing that certain types of malt make certain types of beer, and the bitterness that you get, the flavor compounds that you get from hops. Um, so that's pretty much what got me super interested. That there is a wide range, and I've never really felt artistic or never had the ability to like make music or paint or draw. But when I saw all of those ingredients, I figured that if you put all of those things together, you could probably get something nice out of it, or make a pretty nice beer.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm I wouldn't consider myself a big beer drinker. I love beer. It pairs well with a lot of different things. Um, Walk us through that process of actually creating beer, like on a larger scale, right? You're brewing beer on a weekly basis. Like, what is
Right.
that process like,
So
right?
once we get our grain bill set, we start with the milling, and the milling portion of brewing is kind of basically the start. You're gonna crack open the grain, and you're gonna open up to the possibility of extracting the starches and converting them into sugars when you add the hot water. Once you get that porridge, if you will, of hot water and grain mixed up, and you start to convert those starches into sugars, that sugar water, which is called wort, is going to be the is going to be what eventually will become your alcohol content. The more sugar, the more alcohol you have. And you need to create an environment where you're extracting a good amount of sugar so that the yeast could eat it all up and then convert it into alcohol. Two byproducts of fermentation is you're converting sugars into alcohol, and then you're also creating CO2 as well. So a little bit of carbonation goes in to brewing from the jump.
Oh man, it's a science, right? That's that interesting process. I never knew that. So thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
What is How long does that process take? Like, is this like a multiple day process? How long does it take?
Yeah. So at our brew house, we do 2 turns a day. We have 30 barrel fermenters. We also have some 15s. So with our 15 barrel brew house, we're brewing twice um, to fill a 30 barrel fermenter. So within about 12 hours, we're knocking out 2 different batches.
Okay,
The
right
first
on.
person will come in at 6. The next person that's doing the second shift of brewing will probably come in around 8 or 9. And that whole process, yeah, like each batch takes around 4 hours, but because we're back to back, some of it gets um, not intertwined, but we're multitasking at the
Sure,
same time.
sure.
So let's say um, we're mashing in, which is a process where we're getting that grain mixed in with the hot water to extract all the starches into sugars. We're probably uh, knocking out, meaning that we're transferring the already boiled and sterilized beer with the hops already included in there, going into the fermenter.
That's awesome, man. Sounds pretty like a dope process, man.
It,
The
it's
science
pretty
behind it.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. What has been the most rewarding part of this journey? I know you've worked at a couple breweries prior to Highland Park Brewing. You started off in high school, and it's just been this lengthy process getting to this
Yeah.
point in your career. What has been the most rewarding?
Honestly, probably the journey in and of itself. When I first got into brewing and wanted to brew professionally, it was kind of hard to get a job.
Sure.
It was like the tail end of the pandemic. Uh, Everyone wanted um, some type of experience, and it's like, how do you gain experience when no one wants to give you a shot?
Sure. Yeah.
I applied to so many breweries at the time within a 50-mile radius. I was willing to drive
Wow.
like
Yeah.
far distances
Yeah.
just to brew. And I figured that if I'm gonna gain some type of experience, I'm gonna do it through education. So when I applied to college, and I was looking at colleges that had brewing programs, and the closest one to me was Cal Poly Pomona.
Hmm.
So when I applied there, I was really hoping to get in just so I could also do that brewing
Sure.
program. And I ended up doing that brewing program, which kind of kickstarted me getting my first gig at Angry Horse Brewing in Montebello.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Is there at any point you ever was just like, man, this is just way too difficult. I'm gonna give up on this dream.
Um, I think around that same time where I couldn't find a job, I was just like, "Am I not cut out for this?" Like, I interviewed so many times, and I felt like I have a good head on my shoulders and that I was ready to
Sure.
take on a role like that. Maybe it was a baby face. I'm not sure what it was, but um, yeah, they were asking for ID at the same time. No, but truthfully, I wouldn't say that there has been too much difficulty. Um, and as I mentioned before, part of the journey is the most rewarding part. I've been able to have a lot of community on my back, and kind of have them be proud for me, and really see the excitement and the passion that I have, and ask me about it every time they see me.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
I come from a big family, so when I was homebrewing, I had to find a good amount, a decent sized pot to make my brew. And my dad comes from a family of 15. I'm like, somewhere in my grandparents' house, they have a big pot. And sure enough, that big pozole pot that they
That
had,
worked,
it
right?
worked for me. It was a ten gallon pot.
Right
And
on.
that's what I was brewing on.
That's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's a great story. That's a great story. What is the emotionally the challenges that most people would not expect in this industry? Like, what is that for you?
It's labor intensive.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot of hard work that goes into brewing. Um, we kind of have to be cross trained in so many things.
Sure.
We got to be awesome plumbers. We got to be somewhat of a chemist, a physicist, and a great janitor. It's something that gets tossed around in the brewing industry all the time.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just a lot of work, and it's a lot of patience. We're not seeing the results of a brew probably to like three weeks to a month later, and all that hard work um, is pretty much the most rewarding part, that you give so much time and effort um, to a process, and then once you are able to try the fruits of your labor, that's what makes it all worth it.
Sure. Absolutely. Definitely. Can you tell us about a time that you truly felt proud of something you created?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a two-parter. Um, when I was brewing at Angry Horse, I saw the opportunity to take on a scholarship program, and I applied, which is the MJF, it's the Michael James Jackson Foundation for Brewing and Distilling, and they provide scholarships to people of color that are in the brewing industry,
Oh, that's awesome.
pretty
Yeah.
much to elevate their game. There's not too many of us out there, but we're a growing number. And what I found that was super, super awesome to me, and really rewarding, is that through that scholarship program, I was able to do a pretty cool program through the Master Brewers Association of Americas. And I did the brewing and malting science course there, which was in Minnesota. So I was able to travel
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah.
like for brewing.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that I ever went that direction in the US.
Mm.
So traveling because of beer is something that I'm passionate, was super cool. But I was able to talk to so many people that are like-minded and passionate about brewing, and just want to
Sure.
elevate their game through education, through a formal education. And I was just able to get different perspectives on brew. And when I went back to work, and at this point I'm at Highland Park Brewery now, and um, we do this thing where we're able to do a staff brew, and
Nice.
I was able to create my own
Kind of like a
recipe.
staff meal that they do at restaurants,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
exactly,
That's dope.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was able to do my staff brew, and it was a brew that was my first home brew, but just like scaled up.
Oh, it's dope.
And once I brewed that beer at our research and development facility, which is the original Highland Park Brewery in Highland Park, because Highland Park Brewery is in Chinatown,
Sure.
but the original is in Highland Park.
Yeah, I live closer to the original location. It's an amazing
It's
location.
a dope
Yeah,
spot.
yeah.
Yeah, out of Admiral Seal Bar is where we serve the beer. But yeah, we use that location as our R&D, and I was able to scale up my first homebrew recipe. And once that went on draft, um, I had so much feedback, awesome feedback, and a lot of family and a lot of friends and my coworkers who are super passionate about beer loved it. And I thought that at that moment, like, what an amazing accomplishment.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
something that you create and that you're getting constant feedback on, and people are really enjoying it. And the cool part was that a lot of our beers kind of look similar. There's not too much deviation, but we served my beer in a different glass and it had a different color. So when I would look around, I would see people that are drinking my beer and actually enjoying it. So that was really nice. I think that's like really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned, and I never knew understood the science behind it. Can you tell us a little bit about like why use this certain glass for this certain beer? Like, is there a science behind that?
Oh, absolutely. It'll mostly to capture aroma and just kind of release aroma. A lot of these glasses are tapered. You'll see more pilsners and lagers with a longer like
Sure.
stem. You'll see hazies or stouts like with a short, wider mouth. It's pretty much for aroma,
Sure.
and obviously it looks pretty cool as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the most profound piece of advice that you received from brewing? I know this is like a huge community, right? Like
Yeah, it's a
there's
huge
people are
community.
passionate about this, very passionate about it. What's the most profound advice that you received?
Because you mentioned passion, uh, a good friend of mine and a brewer as well uh, came to visit one time, and we're talking shop and we're drinking beer, and he said, and he looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "Don't ever let anyone kill your passion.
I
Like
like
no
that.
matter
Yeah,
what,
I
no
like that.
matter how hard it is, don't let anyone kill your passion." And it was around the time where I kind of needed to hear that
Sure, sure.
because there's a lot going on, and um, craft beer is difficult at times. So when I first heard that and he told me and he looked me dead in the eyes and said it, I truly felt it and it hit home.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So as you probably know, I'm a huge foodie. I had my restaurant, in
Yeah.
which you've been able to try some of my food in the past. What is the best way to pair food and beer? What is the best way to
On
do
an
that?
empty stomach. No, honestly, man, it's something that I definitely want to get better at. I I can't give you an answer that you probably haven't heard already.
Sure.
A lot of IPAs pair with a lot of good bar food, which is hence why it exists, right?
Right.
But ultimately, if you being the food guy that you are and the awesome food that you made in the past and probably still doing it at home, obviously,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. My
Um,
wife's so lucky. She's so
yeah, she
lucky.
is.
She's very lucky.
I've been very fortunate to have Nola and yeah, I mean, I'm that's why we're friends, right?
Absolutely, man.
Amongst other things. But yeah, I would say um, get a beer style that you like. Try to figure it out on your own, man. Like
Sure.
experiment.
Yeah.
If you think if you're an IPA drinker, have a cheeseburger while you're at it. If you want to have a nice pilsner, get some nice fish of the day grilled. Uh, Stout, obviously, you're probably gonna go that dessert route, but I mean it's open to interpretation.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So what's next for you? What do you foresee yourself in the next 3 years? Let's say what's next? Any special events coming up? Anything you're participating in? I know you got some award-winning beers here. What's
Yeah.
next?
Well, when you first go into brewing and you're home brewing, you always think about um, like the dream is always to own your own brewery, right? Uh, but priorities kind of shift when you're in the game, and I'm very fortunate to be in a community and work at Highland Park because everyone that's there is super passionate about brewing, from kitchen staff, front of house, upper management, and the brewers. We're constantly talking about beer, and everyone's so great at tasting beer where we work, and we give a lot of feedback to each other. We're always talking about beer, perceiving it, doing well, like a heavy amount of sensory, and it's a job for all of us to provide a good experience for our clientele. But as for where do I see myself in the next few years, because I'm in a great spot, I just want to elevate my game there.
Sure.
I want to get better at my process. I want to find new ways to become more efficient, whether it's brewing itself or just daily task on hand. I do believe that when it comes to brewing, there's not one person that knows it all.
Sure.
Or if you go through a formal education, even that, you're still going to have to open up a book, crack open a book, and reference something that you might have forgot about.
Sure, sure.
So it kind of goes back to the journey of it all. Um, there's there's so much knowledge and so much information that you can't hone in on it. So it's always gonna be a journey
Sure.
to consistently get better.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I see myself. I just want to continuously get better at what I do.
100%. I love that. I love that. So let's talk about what we got here. Some of these beers, some of the
Yeah.
most popular beers at Highland Park Brewing. Let's talk about what you have here.
Yeah, so I got Baseball Lager, Timbo Pills, Hello LA IPA,
Mm.
and Pillow. All of these beers have won pretty prestigious awards. This
Oh,
past year, we got 4 gold medals at GABF,
oh, wow.
which is Great American Beer Festival.
Sure, sure.
Probably the biggest stage for beer.
Oh, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and
That's a big
we
deal.
got 4 gold medals, and on top of that, we got Brewery of the Year.
Oh man, that's
So
awesome,
it was
man.
an awesome accomplishment, and the best part about it is that we all worked super hard during that period to get these beers right,
Sure.
and to see all of that success come our way is just testament to the hard work that we put in. Because we're a small staff, but we're cranking out beer, and like I said, we're very passionate about what we do, and not a day goes by where we're not talking about beer and trying to find ways to get them better. I mean, a lot of these beers have been um, vetted recipes, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to change them.
Sure.
Like if we hear information that could potentially improve our beer, that's what we're going to do.
Absolutely.
And in that trial period, we're especially for baseball, we were trying to figure out how we could get that beer to its best form, and to see us win a gold medal in that was like I say it jokingly, but that's all I needed,
Yeah,
you know.
sure,
But
sure.
it's awesome to have the rest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, man, let the people know where they can find you, what location you're at. Yeah.
Yeah, so you could find me at Highland Park Brewery in Chinatown, and you could also find me at our research and development facility off of York Boulevard out of a bar called Hermosillo Bar.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, Cav, man, I really appreciate your efforts, man. Thanks for being here. Uh, cheers, bro.
Yeah, cheers. Man.
Yeah.